Well, thanks so much, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership on this and for holding today's very important hearing. Our forests do play, as you just said, a vital role on so many fronts. Healthy forests provide habitat for wildlife. They also improve soil and water quality, and of course, they yield timber that is fundamental to our economy and our way of life. Healthy forests also sequester significant amounts of carbon from the atmosphere. At the same time, our forests have become, as you said, a significant source of fuel for wildfires. The lack of active forest management has turned many of our nation's forests into tinderboxes. It's created a perfect storm for widespread, catastrophic wildfires. Last summer was devastating wildfire season all across America. In Wyoming, we had one of the largest wildfires on record. The Mullen Fire wreaked havoc through Carbon and Albany counties. It was estimated to span 25 miles north to south, 23 miles east to west, and burned over 175,000 acres. It forced numerous evacuations. It destroyed dozens of homes and buildings, and it left a price tag of almost $33 million. In addition to endangering lives and damaging property and destroying habitat, the increased intensity and frequency of catastrophic megafires has disrupted many of the ecological benefits that we have gained from our forests. These megafires have resulted in increased carbon emissions and reduced air quality. A Bloomberg story published in January reported that California's 2020 wildfire emissions were equal to the greenhouse emissions of over 24 million passenger cars. So if people are concerned, rightly so, about climate change, carbon emissions, and clean air, they should be very concerned about our burning forests. Forest Service Chief Vicki Christensen recently testified that her agency must accelerate its active forest management efforts and that a paradigm shift is needed now. I agree completely. According to the Forest Service, 63 million acres of our national forests are at high or very high risk of being consumed in a catastrophic fire. In addition, sawmills, which carry out hazardous fuels reduction projects, are struggling. The Forest Service sells well below the allowable sale quantity of timber called for in its forest plans. Continuing this practice is going to lead to more timber mills closing down, and this is going to hurt local economies as well as leave our forests vulnerable to ongoing problems with fire and with disease. In recent years, the Black Hills National Forest, which spans Wyoming and South Dakota, has failed to meet its timber targets. And since our local sawmills rely on the National Forest for most of their timber supplies, this failure has led directly to the closure of a sawmill in South Dakota. Worse, some within the Forest Service are recommending further and permanent reductions in harvest levels on the Black Hills. This would devastate our local mills and make it very difficult to manage timber in and around the forest going forward. That's why in March, I, along with members of the Wyoming and South Dakota congressional delegation, sent a letter to the Forest Service. The letter outlines our concerns with a recommended timber for harvest reduction, and it encourages better cooperation between the Forest Service and the local officials and stakeholders. In addition to reducing emissions through active forest management, we should also be mindful of ways we can sequester carbon by planting more trees and vegetation. We should also look for more ways to permanently store carbon in harvested wood products. While I was chairman of the Environment and Public Works Committee, my bill, the Use It Act, was signed into law by President Trump. This law supports groundbreaking innovation to address climate change through carbon capture and utilization technologies. I believe there is ample room for increased carbon sequestered efforts in the forestry space as well. So I look forward to exploring that topic here at the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. Thanks again, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to today's hearing and testimony.